Metal Tim from BraveWords.com, sitting here at Heavy Montreal 2016 with a lovely soundtrack in the background. We're listening to Fear Factory's doing Demanufacture, but the most important thing right now is Leigh from Pop Evil. Welcome home to Canada, my friend.
Good to be back home, man. I'm excited. As soon as I'm done here today, I'm heading into town. So one of my favorite cities on the planet, Montreal. So, and I don't get here as much as I do now in my adult life that I did when I was younger. So it's cool. It's cool to be back here playing a show in front of all these awesome people today. So you have those surreal moments in your career, and whenever we tour Canada, especially Eastern Canada here, it's surreal for me. I have those moments. So
do you think the fans here actually know that there's Canadian blood on stage?
Well, I announced it at some point in the set to make sure that they recognize that I am one of them, and it's important. It's important. My mom would kill me if I didn't. She'd be like, "Did you tell them you're Canadian? Did you tell them you're Canadian, Leigh?" So my mom's the cutest Canadian mother of all time. She'd be like, "Did you get your poutine there? Did you get your every time we tour?" I'm like, "No, Mom, I don't need all those carbs, right? You come on, help me out." But I had some poutine for sure. But
well, you might have competition. I love my mom too.
Yeah,
so.
Well, see, anyone who's got a Canadian mother can relate. So they're just all she cares about is if I ate. I'm like, we had a show, there was thousands. No, but did you eat today? Was the food good? There it is, Canadian moms. And yes, I did have a Hero Burger yesterday in Toronto. I held the tour bus up because you know why? I had to get. I'm a huge Blizzard guy from Dairy Queen, and I know it's called Zips if you know your Canadian burgers, and I had a Smarties Zip because I had to have a Smarties Blizzard, or Zip they call it. So there it is. There's a little Canadian trivia, Pop Evil trivia. I stopped the tour bus at 4 this morning, risking being late for our early show so I could get a Smarties ice cream surprise.
Dude, nothing beats chocolate chip cookie dough.
Dude, well that's amazing, but see, this chocolate chip dough you can get in the States where it's the Smarties you can't. So I'm addicted to Smarties, man. So it's amazing.
So let's talk about the musical rise of Pop Evil and where you came from and where you're at today.
Yep. Well, I was born in Kingston, Ontario, and then my family ended up coming to Michigan. My dad took a gig at the University of Michigan, so I grew up in Michigan. So we would do we'd always be in Canada, whether it was spring, summer, winter, Christmas, whatever it was. So there was always... Canada was very rooted in how we grew up. So then, of course, the guy named Kid Rock kind of started to excel and shine in Michigan. A guy named Eminem, named Marshall, kind of did his thing in Michigan. So we were very much infused by the hip-hop and rock world that was Michigan, Detroit, Rock City. So I think somewhere in there in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was that infusion, which kind of why the name's Pop Evil. We were always doing a little bit of that. We were Michigan proud. It was a lot of that. Growing up around the Great Lakes, and around then, we demoed. I went down to Kid Rock's crew and demoed up some stuff and tried to, take a chance on getting the band signed. And it just was a long haul. It was just a waste of time. I had to wait for Kid Rock to do an album called Rock and Roll Jesus. I never heard of it. It's a great record, actually. I love that record. But so finally he finished Rock and Roll Jesus, and we got to demo a song called 155 that changed the game for us. And then that was kind of our in, signed our deal, signed our life away, and then learned really quickly that the only way you were going to break in this rock metal world nowadays was to tour. There's no exposure on TV like there once was, and it was a different dynamic. So we learned quickly that the way we were going to excel is to just get out there and prove it every night. And it was kind of, here we are, all these almost 10 years later. Next year will be 10 years. So it's incredible. It's been a long grind, but it's so important to doing it the right way, and that's proving it on stage where it matters the most.
Well, the creative juices must be flowing because this record's getting a little aged.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It is, but we're kind of... We've learned, I think, along the way to focus when you're in tour mode, you just tour. If something happens naturally and you write, great. But for me personally... And I'm the leader, the front man, the manager here, all that kind of stuff that I have to do behind the scenes to make sure this album is successful or still in its strong, I guess in its strong prime, I guess you could say, that I have to be focused on that. So I think it's just healthy for me when we get closer to the writing time. Then I put the touring behind me, put this record behind me, and then I can focus really on with a level head on writing and go from there. But I think you pick up some things as you go by. But I think we've learned now to just enjoy it, to be more, I guess, what this album Up is about, is being more appreciative and not being so, down or negative about the situation. Rock and roll and metal, I think, are starting to fuse together and come together in different ways. So it's so important that these festivals, we support each other. And I think that the more opportunities we have to bring more rock and metal together, the less opportunities my kids got to grow up and listen to other genres that,
Well, it's all based on a riff, right? So the genres got to come together.
Exactly. If there's real guitars, and when my kids say that they learn how to play the guitar on Guitar Hero, that's a problem. So, it's so important that bands like these, like us, and the bands here playing today that play real guitars, man. And that's where it started. Like you said, you get a guitar, and whether it was under the tree for Christmas or whether you saved up all that money to get your guitar, you learn how to shred, you learn how to write riffs, and, whatever melody or, expression vocally that you want or lyrically you want to put to that is your right. So
now, as a Kingston boy, this is kind of cool Canadian BraveWords content, and a little bit off our genre, but speaking of riffs and having an open mind, it's a pretty sad day in Canadian music history when you learn about the singer of one of the most famous bands in Canadian history who's dying of brain cancer, and he's from your city. So what kind of memories do you have about Gord Downey and the Tragically Hip?
I have good ones, man. I remember as early as... probably 8 or 9 years old, I remember taking a trip to Kingston, where my cousins, a couple of my guy cousins were. My girl cousins were, I don't know what they were doing at the time, but I remember getting in a fight with my guy cousins about this band called the Tragically Hip. I was like, I never heard of them in Michigan. I never heard of that. So we argued back and forth, and then finally they put in the Tragically Hip CD for me to listen to, and I was mesmerized, like I'm sure most Canadians were. And it was incredible. I think it's just something in that Canadian blood that we have, that just something about the hip makes our blood ripple, and it just is a calming, that when the hip play, you're just at peace. You know what I mean? And it's like, I just think of my grandma, just all the Canadian slang, the gumbootner, all the slang that my grandma does, I'm like, Gram, where you come up with those terms? She goes, oh, darling, that was back in Nova Scotia when I was in Halifax, and I was at the border, and we was doing it with Prince Edward Island with, with Anna Green Gables or whatever it was, or what's the... I don't remember, but all the grammar terms that she'd try to educate me, like I was educated with the Tragically Hip from my cousin. So I'll talk Canadian memories.
Beachcombers.
They're beachcombers. There it is. I couldn't think of that one on the top of my head on the fly. But so much slang, and I got schooled on the Tragically Hip. So, I think since from those days, there's always had a special place with me. And we're actually playing in London in 2 days, the same day the Hip are playing, like we talked off camera. And I'm a little saddened that I'm in the same city to watch. I would love to watch the show myself, but I'm working. But just the legacy they laid, I think, is inspiring to people that are in bands across the globe. I mean, what they've done and what they've done for their country is mind-blowing. And to just say you're playing on the same day in the same city, I'll take that as a win. So
let's hope what's supposedly tragic is going to last a long time, and he is with us for as many years as he can. Right?
Absolutely. So, our prayers go out to him and his family, and of course the band. That the legacy will last forever. So that's awesome.
Let's leave this on an up.
Yes, up note. I caught that. Caught it.
Give us the 6 to 12 months timeline.
Yep, we're going on tour this fall, end of August. We start with Three Doors Down, our good friends there. So we're going to dial it in with them, do the North American tour, and then go right to Europe with those guys. And then probably take a break for American Thanksgiving, and then push out, do some radio stuff for Christmas. That'll get us through the year. And then I think top of the year, we're planning on our big headline tour. So, and then I think that'll take us to March. Then hopefully one big Canadian tour from Halifax to Vancouver. Would be great, and then that'll be the album cycle. So there you go.
Sweet. Well, best of luck with the journey,
Thank you,
man.
and thank you for the support. Thank you all for the listeners being open-minded. Bring it. More rock.